Chapter 27. Narcos, kidnappers, la migra. People shout over one another. We need to jump off now. A guy yells. It's the man I noticed earlier with his girlfriend. He hurries over to her, and I can see him shouting, telling her not to be scared, but that they have to jump. What's going on? Chico yells. I don't know, I tell him in Pequeña. The sound of La Bestia's brakes being applied to cuts through all our voices as cars come up along the right side of the train. The headlights and tailgates, cars of either narcos or officials racing next to the train. There's nothing in sight, not a building or lights of a town, nothing but seemingly endless fields, so whoever it is, whatever they want, it can't be good. The woman climbs down the ladder, and the guy keeps telling her to jump now, jump now. The train is still moving fast enough that just the thought is terrifying. Come on, I tell Chico and Pequeña. We have to do the same, or whoever is in those cars is going to do something to those on this train as soon as it comes to a stop. We have to jump. Ahead, I can see other migrants jumping like bodies from a burning building and running into the fields. Then the woman lets go. We watch from above as she stumbles and falls to the ground, as the guy jumps right after her, staying on his feet and running to her. Even though the train has slowed, it is still going fast, but they are okay. We will be okay. Go, I tell Chico, because the way he's clasping on the top of the train, watching in terror as the bodies fall to the ground below. I know he won't jump unless I make him. No, wait, I can't. You have to, he shakes his head. No, the train and the cars are slowing now. The screeching more piercing as it fills the night. If we wait too long, those cars, whoever they are, will stop and collect all the people jumping off. We have to go now. Fucking jump, Chico. Fucking jump now, or you're gonna get us killed. I feel like I'm choking on panic. I feel like my chest is going to explode with it. I can't. I won't make it. He's at the bottom of the ladder. All he has to do is jump. Just a small jump. A terrible part of me. The part that is trying to survive. Thinks of stepping on his fingers or crushing them. So he will let go. Please, I beg. Please, Chico, please. Chico, you can do this. Come on, Chiquito. Pequeña yells over me. Oh gosh, he says. And I can hear his cries, bending in with those of La Bestia. Now, I yell. Fucking jump. And now I see his hand let go. I hear a terrible bang, and I look to see Chico's body flopping around in that rolling in the darkness. There's another terrifying screech, and my legs feel like they're about to buckle underneath me. They feel like rubber from being scrunched up on top of the train, from being in the same position for so many hours. My heart is furious. My heart is a furious drum as I throw myself and jump from 1 millisecond. There is nothing, no rattling, no sense of feeling anything other than stillness before I come crashing down on the gravel, just like Chico, rolling and seeing blurry snippets of train and tracks, and steel and wheels and sky and rock. There is grass and dirt, but I can't tell what I'm moving toward and what I'm moving away from. I brace myself for the feeling of cutting, for the wheels sharp as blades to slice me through. Somehow, finally, my body comes to a stop, and I rush to my feet, just as Pequeña rolls like a tumbleweed, away from the train, but it's Chico I can't find. Chico, I run to where he jumped. I don't see him anywhere in the darkness, and there's no answer when I call his name. But then I see him, there, on the ground, far enough from the track, unmoving. I run faster and fall next to him. Chico, are you okay? I check to see if a part of him was ground up and spit out. He is perfectly still, his eyes glistening and staring upward. He is gasping for breath, and I'm afraid to turn him over to see some horrific slice through his neck or blood seeping out from under him. Man, please, I beg. Be okay, Chico. He looks at me, and he seems stunned. Say something, I tell him. He gasps for breath, like the time we were running to school, and he fell over a concrete block, and flipped in the air, like a fucking ninja landing on his back, and the wind knocked out of him. Chiquito, Pequeña, is on the other side of him, her mouth gushing with blood, and she's holding her hand out, up to her mouth, spitting into her hand, but checking on Chico, patting him, and looking over his body. He gasps and finally speaks. Am I alive? I started laughing and crying because I'm so glad to hear his stupid voice. Yes, pendejo, you're alive. Are you alive? He asks, looking at Pequeña. She nods, and I think I broke a couple of teeth, Chiquito. She looks stunned, but her words are calm, and she wipes her hand on the side of her jacket pocket. Come on, Pequeña. Rushes to her feet, starts pulling him up. Come on, Chiquito, we have to hide. Pequeña says. Can you walk? Are you okay? Yeah, yeah, he says, stumbling to his feet. The faint lights of the train and cars are far off in the distance, but still visible. We hear yelling and crying. We see lights flashing and dashing back and forth on the train's top, where just moments ago we rode. I feel sorry for those who didn't jump, who couldn't jump, for the women with babies in their arms, or people who were too scared. I don't want to know their fate will be. We rush into the darkness, Chico stumbling as we grab him on either side and hurry him along into the overgrown grass. There aren't many trees here, and that makes the walk easier and faster to navigate, but it also makes it harder to hide. Slow down, Chico says. My head, it feels like it's spitting open. It's hard to see in the darkness, but I picture what he must look like. Walking through that field, Chico's arms outstretched, his head dripping blood. Stop, Chico says. I feel dizzy. He is leaning on us more and more, stumbling loudly as he walks. Just a little more, I whisper to him, but he is becoming dead weight in our hands. I'm trying, he says, but shh, I say. I hear the crunching of grass. Someone coming up behind us. I pull him down, but too hard, and he falls between Pequeña and me, letting out a moan. The walking stops. My body wants to run, and also seems frozen in place. My brain is trying to stay calm, even as it hollers a warning and a command. Something is out there. We stay in place, and the crunching starts again. Comes closer. Something tells me to scream. Something tells me not to make a sound. But the sound is nearly next to us, and then it is here. It is the guy from the train, the one whose girlfriend jumped first. He has a gun in his hand, pointing it into the dark, in our direction. I can just barely see him, thanks to the small bit of moonlight as it shines on his face. Please don't shoot, I whisper. Please. Who's there? He says. Chica moans and Pequeña whispers to him. We were with you on the train, I hurry to explain. We jumped after you. He takes a step closer. Look at us, shakes his head. You're lucky I didn't blow your head off, he says. He lets out a soft whistle, and the girlfriend, who was with him, emerges from the darkness. She looks a couple years older than Pequeña. Just those 3 kids from the train, he tells her. Oh, she says. You okay? She whispers to us. But the guy starts talking over her, telling her they can't keep walking now. Come on, he says, taking her hand, and pulling her away. Wait, she says. What happened to him? She points at Chico, who is still lying on the ground. And you, she says when she sees Pequeña. He hit his head hard when he jumped. He's dizzy, having trouble walking. I think he needs a rest, I tell her. I hit my mouth on some rocks when I jumped, Pequeña says. The guy is pulling at his girlfriend's arm, but she pulls away from him. Get him up, she urges, coming over to us. He needs to keep going. Come on, she says, helping Pequeña and me get Chico back up on his feet. If you don't get back on the train, you're going to be stuck out here for who knows how long. She calls over to the guy. Come, help, she says. Let him lean on you. No, he says. We don't have time to babysit these 3. I told you before we left, didn't I? We can't get attached to anyone. I already woke them on the train when you asked me to. Help me, she says, ignoring him. Or you can go on without me. He sucks his teeth and sighs, but comes over and pushes me out of the way, and then Chico's arms around his neck. The woman goes on the other side. Gracias, I whisper to her as we walk into the darkness. She doesn't say anything at first, and then suddenly, several minutes later, she says, You 3 reminded me of my little brothers. Are you brothers? Yes, I say. It's only a half-lie. I could tell. I left my brothers in El Salvador. Her voice is heavy with longing and guilt suddenly. I left my mama, I tell her, in Guatemala. I left my mama and papa too, she says. I didn't tell them I was leaving. Me neither. Just left mine a letter. My My heart pulses with regret and shame. Mama deserves more than just a letter. I press down on my chest, push away from those feelings. Her eyes catch at the little bit of moonlight there is, and I can see in them exactly how I feel. Stop talking, the guy whispers. We don't know who's out here. All I know is we can't go too far from the train. He continues. We have to catch it when it starts up again. He doesn't need to say what could happen if we don't. We quiet down, keep walking, dragging Chico through the night until the guy tells us to lie down in the grass and stay quiet. We follow his instructions because he seems to know what he's doing. Every few minutes I look over at Chico and he's closed his eyes. I don't know if it's just exhaustion or his head, but I don't. But I know he can't sleep now. Wake up, Chico. I give him a nudge. His eyelids flutter. I'm awake, he whispers back, and then I look toward the train, trying to make out what's happening in the darkness, catching only glimpses of people when they are in the headlights of the ears of the cars. 3 cars. From here, it looks like some of the people on top are being ordered down to the ground. They are being lined up. My heart quickens as I think of the stories I've heard outside Don Fairley's store of people being executed. I look over at Chico. His eyes are closed again. Pequeño nudges him, and I say, Chico, wake up. I'm awake, he says loudly, scratching at his head. Be quiet, the guy snaps. The lights on top of the train hop down to the ground again. I think whoever stopped the train got their payoff from those on top. After a while, I see those who were lined up being forced into the cars on the road. Then the cars are turning around and driving back down the length of the train. The headlights get brighter and brighter as they come in our direction, as their engines roar in that quiet night, and finally pass us. I watch as the red rear lights get smaller and dimmer, disappearing into the night, and am relieved the sound of bullets didn't break the silence. Even so, my nerves went quite jangling, and I feel like I'm going to throw up, but there's no time. We have to get closer now, the guy says. It might start up and leave at any minute. Chico moans and we move him. I'm awake, he says. I know, but you have to walk, I tell him. Come on, Chico, keep walking. He tries, but he still needs help. If this guy weren't here, I don't know what we'd do. His girlfriend and I are on one side of Chico, and the guy is on the other. Pequeño follows behind us, rubbing her jaw. My clothes are sticking to me, and the smell coming off Chico's armpits keep wafting up. I feel sweat trickling along my scalp, down my face, falling into and burning my eyes, as I hold him by his waist. I wipe my face on his shirt. The train clanks and comes back to life. Hurry, the guy yells. It's getting ready to leave. He picks up the pace and I run to keep up, but Chico's legs are like rubber. If we were to let go, he'd fall. We drag him. I'm awake, he says, his eyes half closed. Just a little more, I tell him. The guy moves faster, and we are running then, jostling Chico everywhere, every which way, as he cries and moans. The train hisses and shakes. People are emerging from every direction, running past us, as the guy curses and tells his girlfriend to leave us behind, but she won't let go of Chico. People are yelling, climbing onto the train, urging one another to hurry. When we're only a few yards away, it whistles and shakes, and the wheels start to move. The guy curses and runs faster. Pequeña is running ahead to one of the cars. Its door is slightly opened, barely visible in the darkness. Here, she says, trying to slide the door open more. Here, the train is waking up, slowly moving. Grab him, the guy yells at her. And Pequeña holds Chico as the guy climbs on. Within seconds, he's pushed the door open farther and climbed on board. He reaches for Chico and pulls him on as we push him up and in. Then he pulls his girlfriend on board, and Pequeña, and finally me. The train is rolling faster now, but more people see the open cargo door and jump inside with us. More and more, until the car is filled. Some try to climb down from the roof, but are forced to go back up by 2 guys at the opening who take it upon themselves not to let it get too crowded because we won't be able to breathe with too many bodies in the car. I watch as a woman on the ground passes her child to someone in the car above before she can climb. A hand reaches down to grab a baby, gripping him by his arm. The child dangles in mid-air, screaming before he's pulled up all the way. One wrong move, one jerk of the train, one arm too weakened to hold him, and the body will fall to the tracks. A part of me, the part that lives inside my chest, and it's aching all the time, tells me to climb out, to find the woman and the baby and have them take my place in the car, where it is safer. But my mind reminds me if I get out of this car, another body will fill it up before I can even get to the woman. My mind reminds me that the best way to survive this trip is to forget about that part of me deep inside my chest. The car is stuffy, it smells of sweat and body odor. The itching of my head I've been feeling for days becomes more intense, and I scratch so hard I draw blood beneath my nails. Chico moans off and on, mutters that he's awake. The guy who helped us gives us a dirty look as he holds his girlfriend. When I close my eyes, I see that child dangling in mid-air, like that, then falling. I jolt awake, search for him and his mother, before my eyes close again.